Hi, my name's Lindsay Markham, I'm the training manager for Avolites, and today we're going to have a look at recording palettes for your fixtures on the Diamond 4. So first we're going to start off making colour palettes. There are two different types of palette you can make, shared and normal. First I'll start by selecting a couple of fixtures, locating them, positioning them so I can see what's happening, and then creating the colour I want to make my palette for. Now once you've made your colour, you can go into Record Palette, and it's in this menu that you can set what channels you record, what fixtures you record for, and what type of palette. So whether it's normal or shared, which is very important, and we'll get to that just at the end of recording the palette. Your command line in the top right hand corner tells you to check your mask, which fixtures you're recording for, and what type of palette you're recording, and the screen view is laid out in that order, working from left to right. So if we start off with setting our mask, the first thing we need to do is press A, press to set mask, and in here we can decide what channels we do and don't record. I don't want to record anything other than colour, so I can exclude everything apart from colour. This makes the fact that I have panned and tilted my lights irrelevant, because the console won't record the channels anyway because I've asked it to exclude them. However, I do want to record my colour channels, and I've got two choices. I can ask the console to save all my colour channels, or to simply save the colour channels that are in the programmer. The difference here is that save the colour channels in the programmer will in this instance only record cyan and magenta, because they're the only two colour channels that I've used. It won't catch the lights yellow, colour wheel or colour temperature correction filter. If I want it to catch all the lights colour channels, I would change my save option to save all colour channels. That means that cyan and magenta will be stored, but so will yellow, the colour wheel and the colour temperature correction filter, despite the fact that I haven't actually physically changed those values during this programming session. So now I have my record mask set up correctly, I can press up once to come back to the original record palette menu, and I can decide whether I'm saving for the selected fixtures or just for those in the programmer. Now in this instance I've got two lights selected, and they're the only two lights that I've used, so they're the only two lights in the programmer. So I can choose either selected or in the programmer, and it won't make any difference. But we'll see later on when we come to recording positional palettes how that can be a very important option and does need to keep checked. Over on soft keys I and J we have the choice between saving as a normal palette or saving as a shared palette. If you choose to store your palette as a normal palette, the console will record separate information for each fixture that it's recording for. So my palette will contain two lots of colour information, one for fixture 1 and one for fixture 2. I'll record that palette here by pressing the grey key. However, in an ideal world you'll find that you'll probably want to record your colour palettes as shared palettes. So while we're in record palette, because my menu's latched, I'll change my option to shared. This causes the console to choose the first light that you selected, store its values onto a palette, and it will allow those values to be shared across as many fixtures that you have selected at the time that you apply the palette, providing they have the same personality file as the original parent fixture. So I'll store that palette next to our normal palette. I'll then exit my palette record screen by holding down Shift and pressing up. Now to see the difference between my two palettes, I'll select all four fixtures, locate them, tilt them towards the wall, and first of all I'll apply the normal palette. Now you can see that can only talk to fixtures 1 and 2, because they were the only two lights that were recorded, and a normal palette only stores information for the fixtures that it's told to record for. Alternatively, if I just take the colour out of all 4 of those fixtures again, and I apply the shared palette, you can see that all 4 fixtures are capable of responding to that palette, because that palette just contains one set of colour information, and it will have been gained from the first fixture that you used during programming, and that one set of colour information is being blanketed across all 4 fixtures because they're all the same make and model, they're all the same personality file. So you can see that recording a shared palette is a lot more flexible than recording a normal palette when it comes to things like colour. I'll now delete that normal palette because we don't want to keep that anymore by choosing delete over on my blue function keys, selecting my palette and pressing it again to confirm. Now we'll clear our programmer and look at recording a positional palette. So I'm going to choose 2 of my lights, locate them, and I'm going to spot them on our mirror ball. Now, because my lights have been fanned across into each other, they each have separate pan values, although they both have the same tilt value. If I go into record palette, your settings will all remain the same from last time you were in the menu. So I need to go into press to set mask to change from saving my colour channels, so I'll exclude all colour channels, and switch to save all pan and tilt channels. Up to come back to the original screen. Once again, I've got the same 2 lights in the programmer as I have selected. So selected or in the programmer will perform the same function for me. However, if I come out of this menu, had I decided just to get hold of one of the fixtures and just nudge that into precisely the position I want, then when I go back into record palette, I find I've got 2 lights in the programmer, but only one that's actually selected. So in this instance, if I stay on Save Selected Fixtures Only, I'll only record the position of fixture 4, whereas if I choose Save Fixtures in Programmer, the console will record for fixtures 1 and 4, regardless of the fact that only 4 is currently selected. And now the difference between normal and shared again. If I store this palette as a normal palette, that will allow the console to store different pan and tilt information for each of my 2 fixtures. And I'll store that next to our colour palette. Staying in this palette menu, if I switch to saving it as shared, same as with the colour, that now causes the console to choose the first fixture that was used during programming, store its pan and tilt values onto the palette, and share those values with as many lights of the same make and model as I have selected when I apply the palette. And I'll store that next to our normal position. Shift and up to exit my latched palette menu. If I now select all 4 fixtures and locate them, we'll see if I apply the normal position palette, fixtures 1 and 4 receive their own information, they spot the mirror ball, fixtures 2 and 3 can't respond because all my normal palette contains information for are the 2 fixtures that were recorded during